Let's start with the case classes examples. There is not much theory, but we have few examples. So let's discuss these example one by one. So we have already used case class in many ways. We have already used a case with match where we can try to match the different patterns of different inputs, but here we are using in a different way. The same logic we will use, but in a different way. The meaning of this example is same as we have discussed earlier with the pattern matching, but let's understand this code line by line. We are calling this match value method for one. We are calling this match value method for a string as well. So we can call it for integer, we can call it for the string. It means it would be a little generic type. Okay, again we are calling it for 5, which is integer. Again we are calling it for different string. So in this method definition, we are using x, which is of any type. Any could be any data type, and it would also return the same any type. So it can be integer, it can be string, it can be any data type, any primitive data type. So when we are passing integer, it would become integer, it would also become integer. If we are passing string, the input x would become integer, sorry, string, and the output or the return value would also become the string. So let's focus on this statement. Match value 1, so x is 1. It will uh, use this match statement, and then the case class to match 1. If it is 1, then return this. So it can be anything. Generally, it if this would be if this is integer, x is an integer, and your return type is anything. So in this case, it can, if it is integer, it still can be anything. If it is a string, it still can be anything. That's why in case of 1, it is returning 1 as an integer. Okay, so this definition would return you 1 as a word. If you use case 2, if you use 2 as a case, which is over here, it would return you digit, so it can be integer as well. But in case of any integer, any other integer except 1, it would come over here. Okay, but this time the string would be like this. So we can create a string at runtime, and we can replace the y value whatever we pass except 1 will fetch over here, and any other integer value y would come over here. So this would be matched. Anything else except 2, any string, would come over here as unknown. Okay, so if I simply run this code as a case class example 1, so this would return us 1, this 2 would return us 2, this 5 would return us this statement, this is other integer value, and this 2, as you can see, this is starting from capital T, so it would come into this category. So with match, case classes can be used to process on different cases. Okay, so this is the one use of case class that we have already discussed during the pattern matching. This is more generic example by using a generic input. Let's come to the second utilization of case class. Let's first understand what I have written over here. So if we write case before a class, we have not written anything such over here, but we can write case before in class over here. As you can see, before class we have written case, so it would provide us some additional functionality to this class. That is why we have added case to it. The one functionality is we are not writing this variable like this, because we don't need to. If we are not writing variable like this, it would, because by default in the case class would become immutable. Okay, by default your case class is immutable, so if you don't write, all the variable would become immutable. Okay, this is one functionality will be provided by the case if you have named your class as a case class. The second functionality is if you are using case class, the compiler will automatically generate the hash code and the equal method for your object. But what is the use of this? We will understand it in the third example, right? So we will understand what is the use of hash code and the equal method. We will learn in this example. Okay, so this is statement you can skip as of now, but we will learn. But one thing which is mentioned over here is very important, that if you using case class and if the compiler would find two similar objects having the same data, then the compiler would not create a new object. It would again assign the same hash code for the new object, and it will map the older data to the new object. This is one thing, because it would, for the same data object, it would have only the same hash code. That is what I'm trying to do over here. As you can see, we have different objects and we are trying to figure out the different hash code, okay, of these different objects. So if this object first SMS and third SMS are same, then both of these hash code would be same. And if we try to compare these objects, this statement would also return you true. So far our objectives are clear. If I run this, we will understand what we have written over here. But first let's execute this case class example 2. So as you can see, both hash codes are same, okay, and true is returned by this, okay, and this they are equal returned by this, they are equal, okay, because first and third objects are equal. But we will see why they are equal. Because first thing, let's come to that, we have created an object, you may ignore it, we have written just to understand this point. We have one trait which has no method, okay, and we have case classes which is actually extending this trait, okay. The case class email is the name of the class, SMS is the name of the class. These are the types of parameters this case class can accept, okay. So if you try to implement or create a new object of this case class, it can accept email from and subject to strings as an input parameter, okay. Again, for the SMS, the name, it is also expecting two strings, but the name of the strings are different. In case of SMS case class, the first parameter is SMS from and second is the message instead of subject. So we are clear about this, but we want to understand this point, that if you have written case class and if you create the same objects, that what we are trying to do, we are creating object 1 with Amit is the name, SMS as a SMS from, and we are trying to pass the this message is something like urgent visit of office. We are creating second object with another name with different message, but we are creating third SMS object with the same name we have used in the first object and the same message. In that case, the compiler would not create another object because it is the same object existing in the memory. So for the third SMS and first SMS, the same hash code will be provided by the compiler. That's why the hash code of first and third are same. As you can see, the hash code of both of these method objects are same. That's why the first SMS and the third SMS, both these methods are equal. But it is only happening because these classes are the case classes. If they are simple classes, then the hash code of both these objects would be different, they would not be equal, and these statements will not be executed because they are unequal. This is not true, this is not true. So it means it happened due to case class only, That's why it is creating only one object and assigning the similar hash code. That is actually the use of this. It would generate the hash code and equal method in case of case class. That is the point we wanted to understand. So if I don't add case class, what I have mentioned over here, as you can see, I have not used any case class over here, but I have provided the definition of show method mentioned in the trait notification. Okay, so I have defined this show method for email. For SMS we have again defined it. Okay, now if we are calling the SMS, we are creating a new object of SMS class, which is simple class. We are passing two variables. As you can see, this can accept two strings, which is similar to that. Again, this object 1 and object 3, they both seem equal. As you can see, the first parameter is Amit and the second parameter is urgent visit office. It is also the same. But in this case, due to the classes are not case classes, it would create different objects. So object 1, object 2, object 3 would be different in memory. The different hash code would be provided. So here, even though object 1 and object 2 both are equal in a look, but the different hash code would be provided. So if I simply run this 3, okay, this one, it would provide us different hash code. That is why during the comparison, they are unequal. It is not passing, and this would return false. This false is coming from here because they are simple classes. So in case of case classes, okay, the compiler would be little smart. So if the same object would be holding the same data, it would not create a new object. It would assign the same hash code for the new object as well. With the help of hash code, the compiler would create different objects in different memories. Okay, so if different hash codes are applied or different hash codes are generated, it means the different memories are provided for that objects. Those objects, the different memories are provided. So this is actually the definition of the case classes. But I have seen very few questions on in practicals or in companies. You should be aware about how to achieve this. One thing that the compiler would create only one hash code objects if the data is same. Generally such types of question would not occur in companies. This type of questions are generally asked in based on the case and match questions are there. And another example I'm going to discuss, such type of questions would come in exam and practical and also during your company interviews as well. So the one usage of case class is also there is one aspect of case classes is if you create objects of case classes. As you can see over here, we have created a case class. And another thing, that if you are using case class, you don't need to use new keyword. We are not creating using new keyword as we are using over here. Okay, we can directly use the class name as well. This is another benefit because here the SMS is the case class. That is why we are not using new. It is implicit for the compiler to create new object for SMS for these values. So I have taken the same example I have taken over here. We have three variables, three objects having Amit. Object 1 and object 3 are same. If I find the hash code of object Ben and object 3, they would be same. And if I compare them, they would be equal, and equal method would return true. But here the object 2 is different. Okay, the one concept for the case classes is if you create different objects of case classes, you can make those objects into a list. You can combine those objects and make a list. This is the concept. So let's say if you have a company, let's say you have a case class of employees you can create different employees. If you have a shopping cart, then you can shopping cart case class, then you have the name of an item, the price of an item. You can have many variables over here, and you can create different objects, and later on you can create a list out of those objects, and later on you can use for each for that list, and you can print the values of from that list. So this list would have object 1. Object 1 is nothing but these two parameters. Okay, two parameters. This item first would be object 1, and item, with the help of item we are calling these SMS from, and message, we are accessing the value of these for each item. So the first item is object 1, so now the object 1 dot SMS from would become Amit, and this item dot message would become this message. So this is for object 1, and the same would be repeated for object 2 and object 3. So if I simply run this code, the fourth one, it would print all the this, with this message it is printing the element of the case class. Generally this aspect of this is the concept generally being asked in the interviews, that you can create different objects, and then later on that you can convert all those, you can combine all those objects into a list, and later on we can apply some methods over the list provided by the list collection. Okay, this is one of the usage which is very popular. This is also one of the usage which is very popular in pattern matching. These two usage I have seen very few times. Okay, but you should understand that yes, if you use case classes, then the same hash code will be generated for the same objects, or hold when the objects are holding the same data, then the same hash code will be generated for it means only one memory will be provided for that object, only two reference would be there, and having the when different objects having the same hash code, it means two references are there but only one memory is provided because they are sharing the same hash code. So this is about the case classes. Unfortunately I have not seen this topic in your syllabus, but Scala is incomplete without case classes. So you should also try these examples. I have copy pasted everything. I'll provide these four codes for your Moodle because I have not added it over here. Okay, so with this uh, we are done with your fifth unit as well. The practical may come from this unit as well. I'll upload over the Moodle what we have covered during this lecture. Three practicals, small practicals are there. You may use the same code with little modification as well what we have used, because I have copy pasted everything over here in this file. I'll share this PDF as well. Okay, I'll append this case class code here as well, so it will be a complete code file as well with the notes. So this is all for this video session. If you have any query, you may comment down below to this video. Okay, and we are done with all the notes, and we are done with all the topics of unit 5 as well. So thank you so much. For further queries you may contact me personally. Okay, so thank you so much and have a good day.